And as we were talking about how do we portray to you all what we do, there are lots of things that we do. And I'm just going to start putting things up here so you can start to see. We have course authorizations, program advising, EIL students, career goals, certificates. The list goes on and on of what we help students with. And our goal is to help you better understand how the transition is from Pathway to online, but also our online students who don't go through Pathway, what each role is and how we help them. So to get started, this is our current model, and I'm going to just leave this up here so you can get an idea. We report to an advising director, we have an online advising manager, and then there are 5 coordinators. And Farid is going to talk about the Pathway side, and I'm going to pick up at the transition to lead into online and how we're helping students currently.
So Pathway advising. So Pathway advising, as it currently sits, is relatively new. It was about, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 years ago that at the time President Kimby Clark noticed that there was a huge dropout rate from first semester to second semester. And that there was a huge amount of students that were struggling throughout the program. And that's kind of what started Pathway advising. He felt that there needed to be some type of safety net to reach out to these students to help them succeed better throughout the program. And so these are some of the things that, since that time, that we currently do. One of them is the proactive at-risk monitoring and outreach. What that is through our PATH system, we're able to see students' grade around the world. We're able to pull reports and see who has a D+ or below, and we can start reaching out to those students. As well as a common concern that instructors have is, I have a lot of students that have 0% and they're not doing anything. I've reached out to them and nothing's happening. We as well pull out those reports and try to reach out to those students and figure out what's going on. Did they just not realize they were registered? Did something happen in their life that now doesn't let them continue on in the program? And we try to advise them whether to continue or to decide to drop from the program. As well as we try to inform those students that may be struggling in their courses, the resources that are available to them, whether it's tutoring, disability services, working with their missioners, and more importantly, working with you to succeed in their courses. Along with that at-risk component is the advising profile. This allows us to, rather than have a reactive model, to be proactive. As they come into the program, they fill out their advising profile, and they're able to select certain things that we may deem them as an at-risk students. They may select that they struggle to provide the basic necessities of life, whether it's food, clothing, shelter. They're also able to designate if they have some type of documented learning disability, or if they've struggled with education in the past. We're able to see these things and try to reach out to them before they start their GS 120 or the L version, so that they can know that there's tutoring available, that they can reach out to you as an instructors to receive additional support in their course. As well as we have program advising and geographical area advising, which are kind of go hand in hand. In Pathway advising, we don't necessarily tell them what classes they need to take. It's very structured. It's a GS 120 or math or English, and that's pretty much it. As well as a religion course. However, as they come into the program and as they're going throughout their career within Pathway, we want them to have a vision beyond Pathway, whether it's entering the workforce, continuing their education through BYU-Idaho online, or looking for a local option. So we reach out to them, try to see what their plans are, what are their hopes, why are they doing Pathway, and then from there gear them towards the most program specific, or the geographical program that's approved for the area. So internationally, we have the Dean of Online Programs. The Assistant Dean actually travels around the world and makes partnerships with local businesses. He tries to meet with educators there in the country and see what is the market in that country, so that way we know specific certificates, associates, and bachelor's degree to provide for these students. So a lot of the times as we interact with these students, we try to find out what their plan is and then kind of pitch one of these programs. Obviously, sometimes they have, not always do we have programs that are available. That, for example, we had a student once that wanted to be a lawyer. We really don't have a program that will prepare them for them. They can, just get a bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies or some other major, but ultimately to move on to a master's or a doctorate in this case, we really don't have much to prepare them for that. As well as we do matriculation firesides. We work in collaboration with admissions, with online advising, and we try to actually have live video conferences with students from around the world, here domestically in the US as well as internationally, and really just try to answer any questions about during or after Pathway, whether it's struggling in their courses or what careers are available through BYU-Idaho Online, just to really help them feel comfortable as they're transitioning from Pathway to BYU-Idaho. As well as local options. This is more of an uncharted territory. We're currently working with Self-Reliance to really be able to understand how these students can better utilize these programs in their countries, as well as PEF loans. Self-Reliance PEF loans for the Perpetual Education Fund really hasn't been approved for BYU-Idaho, with the exception of Ghana for the most case. Slowly, more countries are kind of getting on board, but we're working with them so that PEF can be provided for students as a complete pathway and move on to the BYU-Idaho online degree program. And then there's also Give Me 5, which is very new. Last semester was the first time we implemented it. And it's really the process of us reaching out to every third semester students in the program, an international students, and really getting them the information they need to apply to BYU-Idaho. If you're familiar with the B-Smart application, you know how confusing it can be. Now imagine if you're an international student who knows English as their second language. It's even that much more difficult. And so we try to help them through that process in collaboration with admissions. And then once they are accepted to BYU-Idaho, we provide them, we already know because of our outreach what program they want to enter. We declare them into that program and then tell them the first 5 classes they need to complete in order to achieve that certificate. Once that is achieved, we pass them on to online advising. And the last one is the peer or the student leadership model that we have. It's really our peers that make this all possible. It's impossible for me to reach out to 3,000 students every semester. Currently in our program, we have more than 3,000 international students, and I believe about a little more than 8,000 students domestically in the US and Canada. And it's really our peer team, our student-led team that is the workforce behind our program. They're reaching out to the students every day, setting up appointments, talking about their after pathway plans or how they can improve their grade in their courses, and more importantly, working with you so that they can succeed in pathway and then have a vision of the program afterwards. And so we want to go into and talk a little bit, or really get a feel of what these type of students are. And so I want to share a clip from a young lady named Carolina. She's originally from Venezuela. She went through pathway, completed it, and eventually got her bachelor's degree in Brother Brian Justison, who is our domestic coordinator for domestic director for Pathway. He knows Carolina very well, and so I don't want to diminish her kind of her story. So I might turn some time over to him so he can share a little bit more about her story.
I was born in Venezuela. My parents are both back home. We came here when I was 11. My dad didn't like it. I stayed. I've been with other families and been by myself since then. When I joined the church, my family completely went against it, but deep inside my heart, I knew it was the right decision for me. And it blessed my life in so many ways. I would have not had the pathway program had it not been for the church. Before Pathway, I didn't see anything in my future. I had no money. I could not afford school. In some way, felt that I had to give up on my dream to finish an education. And I was devastated, but I had no other choice than keep going or keep saving until someday I could go back and finish. And when you are, or you feel you're alone, and you think the Heavenly Father has forgotten you, you just hit bottom rock. On top of that, I was diagnosed with arthritis, which didn't help me in any way. Even though I had the church, even though I had the Heavenly Father, I couldn't see beyond that because the pain was just too big to bear. And there was one day I just got on my knees and I told him, I can't do this anymore. Please stop. Help me, because I can't do it. I cannot physically do this anymore. And as always, he always sent somebody to save me. I had a bishop back then that gave me a blessing. He just felt prompted to give me a blessing that day. And the blessing said that everything that my heart desired would come soon. So when I heard about the program, I was filled with joy and gratitude. It meant fulfilling my dreams and becoming the person that I wanted to become. Sometimes you think that you have had all the chances in the world, and then you get this amazing blessing out of nowhere. So to me, it was just the biggest gift I could have ever gotten. I am and I'm seriously so excited about graduation day. It's a dream. I cannot say how grateful and blessed and loved I feel. That means I'm just closer to my dream, to be able to serve people and be their advocate and help them walk the same path I have. Graduation just brings so much joy and accomplishment. I've made it.
So it gives you a real taste of the type of students that you on a daily basis are able to interact. And Brian, if you don't mind, kind of where is Carolina now in her life, and kind of more of the challenges she had to face going through the program and when she met you for the first time? If you don't mind standing up and sharing a little bit more.
It was back in 2010. JD had just barely hired me, took a big risk and sent me to Boston on my first trip, my first Pathway Fireside, my first launch. And I show up at the fireside, I get up and I start doing my presentation. And Carolina started peppering me with questions. In fact, I like to accuse her of heckling me during that fireside, because every time I gave her an answer that she didn't like, she let me know about it. And then she came up after the fireside and grilled me for another 20 minutes. And I share that with you to give you an idea of how important this was to her. But I also share that because finding Pathway obviously filled her soul with hope, but she had a long, long road ahead of her. And as I've kept in touch with her and visited with her over the last few years, I've learned what a powerful role her academic advisor and her instructors had in her life. It made me feel like what we do on the Pathway side is really nothing more than rolling out an opportunity, but realizing the power of this program comes through consecrated and inspiring instructors and teamed up. So this is the interesting thing. We spent some time talking about this lately. We put around these students who in many cases are not your typical college students as college students, and we put around them a network of support. So we have church service missionaries who love them and encourage them and keep track of them. We have instructors who they interact with in their courses, advisors who are helping them to chart out their course through the next phase of their life. And we've been talking a lot lately about how to better coordinate all those efforts that are being mobilized in behalf of these students. Because I'll tell you right now, one of the most inspiring experiences I've ever had was watching Carolina walk across the stage and get her bachelor's degree. But I knew in my heart that would have never happened were it not for those church service missionaries who were there for her, those instructors that she talks about. I mean, she will lose it. She doesn't like to cry on camera, as we tried so hard to get her to do. But when she really talks about her instructors and when she talks about her academic advisor, the emotion just pours out of her because she knew how dependent she was on them. to get her through.
Thank you, Brian. That was great. So our goal in pathway advising is to reach out to the students, to touch these students one by one, to really be able to have a conversation with each one. And a lot of the time, they don't really need our help, but they appreciate someone who's there to help them. And sometimes they just want to talk to somebody. And that's what we're trying to do, to reach to them one by one, have a conversation, and really have them a vision for the future. I just want to close with pathway advising, just to kind of give you an update of where we're going now. We have over 10,000 current pathway students in the program right now. We've had over 15,000 graduates throughout the course of pathway. We've already had over 100 students who've gone on and completed a professional certificate, 273 who completed an associate's degree, and 220 have completed their bachelor's degree. And I hope it'll only increase after this current semester.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not amazingly familiar with pathway advising. When do we send students to pathway support for 96, 98, 98, or pathway advising, or is pathway advising a compartment within pathway support?
That's a great question. So it used to be. We were in a meeting yesterday where the students I thought that was the Pathway Student Support Center. It's not. It's actually two different departments now. We have actually different reporting lines. And so to answer your question of what goes to where, think of pathway advising more as kind of the student just needs some type of encouragement and support. So if he's struggling in his course, or he's having just personal issues and just doesn't know how they're doing, even if they're suicidal, some of those we work in collaboration with the Student General Support Center. And so if something comes to us, we will send it to them. However, the Pathway Student Support Center focuses more on general support, how to make your payments, kind of the general information to continue in pathway, whether it's registration, systems issues. And since some of the representatives are here, do you want to go ahead and add any more to what I may have missed, Josiah or Johanna?
Pathway Student Support is like the Kimball building, where it's the administrative things. It's not homework, it's not advising, it's everything else.
Thank you, Josiah.
When do students, you said you contact them at their third class in pathway, at what point in that class do you start talking to them about?
Since day one of that semester. Sometimes, so for example, for next semester, we're going to be doing that during the 7-week break. So it really just depends on the semester, but we start as soon as possible and we continue until we've contacted everyone. Obviously, with communication challenges, email and phone numbers, we're not able to contact everyone, but at least we make the effort to do that. That is our goal. And Trevor, did you have
and then I was going to add to that. We start right at the beginning of the semester, but there are a lot of students, so we don't have a ton of advisors to be able to reach out to them. But we're doing the best we can, and it may take quite a few weeks before we're able to contact people, but we continue to work throughout the semester.
If we have a student that we want to make sure has contact with you at some point or another, how do we do that?
Great question. So we have some flyers here that have our contact information. At the end of the meeting, please come up, grab one. It has our email, as well as for pathway advising, we have an actual portal that it's a Qualtrics survey. You can go in, say you're an instructor, and put all the information you feel is important so that we can reach out to the student and provide that some additional support. Did you have a question as well?
So when a student has severe difficulties with just the learning process, and if they're emailing a teacher 7, 8 times a day, not quite understanding what the teacher is responding, as they respond back 7 or 8 times a day, could we send them to you? Is that appropriate?
Absolutely. A lot of the times we have advisors that are from the countries these students are in, and so they're able to speak to them in their native language, really just understand what they're hoping to get from you, and then we can kind of support you and say, well, this is their stewardship, this is the direction they have. And at the same time, if you provide a referral like that to us, we'll report back to you and say, this is what we told the student, this is what he said. Is there anything else you would like us to do to provide additional support to this individual?
So following up, so we could just contact you directly and say, we've got this student. We could give you their name and you would contact them instead of just giving the student the contact name and number.
hoping and praying that they would
Yeah.
contact you and knowing they probably won't.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you don't mind, please hold your questions. We'll have more time to do a Q&A. I want to make sure that Haley has her time to present on online advising.
I did tell Farid it was like sacrament if he took the whole time. I'll just give you my business card. So I'm going to pick up at the transition. This model, we're so excited about it because we really want to make the transition from the pathway to online seamless. We just pick them up and we continue on with their career goals and their plans. So we're really excited about this. You'll notice the only difference between the pathway side and the online side is these remote advisors, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we've really been asked, and we're pushing for the student leadership structure. We know that it works. We do intense training. We do a lot of investment in our peers, so they know all options for students, and they can relate to them and help them through their journey here. So as we get into online advising, some of the things that we do, like I said, we mirror pathway. So we really want to make that transition easy. We do proactive at-risk monitoring and outreach. We do it a little differently. We're not going to check grades because I don't think we could do that, as every teacher is different in how they're doing grading in the online world. But we are looking at academic standing. So we're looking at key factors about when they're slipping to warning, when they're slipping to probation, and we're trying to outreach to those students to better help them. We haven't always had that in the past, as we've almost been playing catch up in the online world. It's growing so fast and we haven't had people there. Now we're getting a model in place to help those students to be proactive versus reactive, like Farid said. We do continued outreach throughout the semester. So as we're looking at, are there course changes? Are there substitution changes? Are there major dates that we need to let students know? We're always trying to be ahead of the game to help students so they can't say I didn't see that or I missed that or something like that. We're able to outreach specific times at each semester. Including that is students who maybe haven't registered in 2 semesters. So for online, if you take 2 semesters off, you have to register for your 3rd one or you'll have to reapply to the program. And we want to make sure that we're identifying those students to help them continue on their journey. Is it a financial issue? You know, is it the courses were too hard? Something like that where we can limit what they need to do in order to continue on with their plan. We also do career goals and major exploration. A lot of our students actually have some type of transfer credit, and they think, well, even if I have 5 transfer credits, what can I do with that? You know, how can I use that? So we're trying to get past just the, oh, we'll use your credits however we can, to what do you want to do for your career? What's your goal in life? What do you want to pursue? And helping them look at the degrees we have available, look at our options and say, yep, you can continue the BYU-Idaho program, we have this. Or maybe we need to look at a local option. You know, maybe this isn't the right fit, but we can certainly get your generals and things like that so you could transfer, get an associate degree or certificate. We've really focused on centralized program advising. So with that, we've looked at course sequencing, graduation plan as I-plan comes into place. Students will have a better idea. In the past, it's students calling every semester, what do I do now? What do I do now? And we're trying to get those plans in place where they can say, I have a goal, okay? This semester I'm taking 2 classes. Next semester I'm taking 3. I have a plan in place. And we approve those right now. We're hoping in the future it will be auto. So as long as it validates, they're good to go. But we're keeping an eye on how students are sequencing their courses. We're reaching out to them saying, well, as an example, I'll share. Several of our pathway students who start in online, they are excited and they want to get going. And we've had a few pathway students sign up for 15 credits saying, I'm ready to go, okay? And we're kind of like, no, don't, you know, we don't want to scare you yet. So that's when we would do outreach and we would say, listen, you know, congratulations on succeeding at pathway. To get started in BYU-Idaho, let's start with, you know, 1 or 2 classes so you get used to them, see how they feel, see what questions you have so you're successful. If you find in the next semester, I'm doing great, Okay, I think I could add one more. I have time. I don't have a job right now. This is my focus. Great, then we'll adjust their plan so they can plan a few more courses to that. Like I mentioned, student leadership, we're building that right now. We are excited. As I share the remote advising structure, you'll see how our peers are tied in. Our peers are a knowledge base. If they don't have the answer, they know how to find the answer. So a lot of times we are the people to go to if it's, where do I find a tutor? How do I pay my finances? What about financial aid? What about Pell Grant? We can at least get them to where they need to go. So if we get those students who come to us, we can give them the right path, but then we also use that to say, hey, have you done your graduation plan? You know, what is your goal? We're trying to still touch base with those students, even if they're not calling for something in our area, so we can see how they're doing. And finally, our remote advisors. We have a remote advising team, and just to give a brief background, and Kendra's here, which is great. She's been since the beginning with me. There used to just be a couple of us that did all online advising full-time. So there were 3 of us. And we started to say, okay, there's thousands of students. I don't know how this is going to work. But we didn't really have room to grow in the full-time because there was no space. We didn't quite know what to do there. So we went to a model of remote advisors. Currently, we have 18 remote advisors. And they used to be college specific, but we now broke them out into program specific. So we have our computer-based programs. I'm going to skip the international for a minute. The business, university studies or generals, the health, and then the marriage and families center. I put the numbers up here so you can kind of see currently where our students are at in these sections. And each remote team, you can see how many remote advisors are in each area. The nice thing about this is that each remote team is also tied to a peer team. So as they get training from departments about courses that have changed or updates, they work with their peers to train them, to keep them updated. Because our first line of defense is our peer model, is our student leadership model. As we get to remotes have never had the option to go into career planning and career goals and setting that. So we're trying to elevate them to a higher level with these students to take on more at-risk cases, things that may be a step above our peer team, and to really work with those students there. So you can kind of see some of their stewardships. But this international team, we created that to help with our international students with Farid's team. They work closely to say, after the Give Me 5 certificate, after those 5 courses, let's build onto that and go into an applied associate degree. So let's keep your momentum going to build that and then maybe go into a bachelor's degree. So they are a high touch with our international students. We're putting peers under them now. Like I said, we built that team in the past few weeks, so it's growing. They're already doing outreach, but we're excited about that team. So as you refer students to us, we're really looking at which team it's going to, and then we're pushing them either to the peer or the remotes to contact those students. And university studies, this number varies drastically, but this includes general studies, so our associate degree, and then the unknown. So I have credits, what do I do? Okay, they start with them, and then usually they'll get them into another area if something's of interest to them. Okay, and we're short on time, so I'm actually going to skip our student example. Just overall numbers, we just wanted to give you an idea, our current online students. So this excludes the pathway portion. These are in the online program right now. You can see the pathway breakout, and then overall degrees since we've been going. I just wanted to end with this quote by Ezra Taft Benson. Too many are wandering, some are being enticed away by momentary distractions, and others have become completely lost. With the shepherd's loving care, many would not be wandering. And if they were, the crook of the shepherd's staff, a loving arm would retrieve them. That's our goal in Pathway and Online Advising. That's why we're excited that we're united. We're under the same umbrella, we're on the same team. And we really work back and forth with each other to see where students have been, where they're going, do they need help, and reaching out to them so they can be successful here in our programs. We're gonna end there. Just for any other questions that you have about our model or where to refer students or anything like that, please let us know. But the floor is yours now. If you have any other questions. Yes?
Is it the same contact information to get people in touch with you as it is the pathway, or?
So they are two separate. So
Uh-huh.
we have an online advising email and then a pathway email.
Okay.
As Farid was talking about the pathway portal, we're
Uh-huh.
working to build that in the online world.
Okay.
So right now, just a recommendation or a referral from you guys to our online email is great, and we will do the same thing.
Okay.
We'll reach out to them. Any other questions we can answer for you? Okay, well, oh yeah, JD.
Do you see the Give Me Five campaign, do you see it going into the domestic students from the United States and Canada?
I think that's certainly been a discussion that we've been having. We're trying to see the markets for, is a certificate beneficial for our domestic students? What certificates are available? So I know that that's a discussion right now. We haven't put that into action, but we still, as we advise, we're saying, do you need something quickly? Well, hey, we have this certificate for you. You know, let's work on that to get you going. So I would say it's still an underlying push in some ways, but it's not marketing right now.
If I could just add to Amy too, a lot of the domestic students have high transfer credits, and so it's hard to steer them towards a certificate if they already have an associate's or have just a ton of credits. In some cases, it is still the best option, but until we evaluate their transcripts and really understand what direction we want to go, it's really hard to just say, start off with this certificate from the get-go.
So you mentioned that we surround these pathway students with a team of people to help them, the missionaries, the instructors, advising. But it doesn't feel much like a team because, I don't know if you've contacted the people that if I've sent their name to you, I don't know if you've done anything about it, or I don't know if the missionaries, I don't have any contact with the missionaries. I don't, so I feel like it's just me emailing over and over and the student not responding, and I don't know that anything's happening. Is there a way to let us be a little more informed?
And Farid mentioned this earlier, and like I mentioned in this model, we are so excited because we feel like we have the structure in place. Now we're fine-tuning the processes and things like that. And so as we're getting instructor referrals, we want to give you feedback saying, we contacted this student, this is what we found out, and let us know if there's anything else that's still happening or that we can help them with or things like that, at least get them to the right area. So we're hoping to build that team, so you feel that there's a connection here.
And in addition, me and Ryan were actually just talking about this yesterday. We hope that one day we can have some type of means of communications where we can see your efforts, you can see the missionaries' efforts, and you can see our efforts. So that way we're all on the same page. You can be like, man, I've emailed the student 10 times, and you look and it's like, oh, the pathway advisor has already talked to them about this, and this. Okay, it kind of puts you at ease a little bit more. When we'll get there, I don't know, but hopefully that's how I would hope we can be somewhere.
Well, I just want to say that I can see a difference just in the past few weeks, because as she mentioned, like I never used to hear anything back, but I have gotten responses in the past couple of weeks, and that is really nice. So,
Great, thank you.
I was just going to add to a similar thing. Last semester, I referred a student to pathway advising, and it was a very positive experience. They had already been reaching out to him. They let me know what was going on, and he let me know that he'd been hearing from them. So it was a nice, I guess, reassurance. And he got to hear from them once again because he was asking me the same questions he was asking them, so they were able to clarify again.
Yesterday in President Gilbert's presentation, we saw that there would be collaboration with LESVC or other schools, that there's separate programs that teach English. Are those is in pathway advising's wheelhouse, where it's pathway but not BYU-Idaho credits?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, right now, I don't know all the English programs. The one that I'm most familiar with is EIL, because that's where we're gonna be involved the most. So this EIL pilot that we're running it's a non-gathering component, and so it's strictly online. The challenge is the portal or the platform that the students will be interacting on is higher than their English capability. And so it's gonna be we're gonna have a team of students, of advisors that are gonna be very, very, very high touch with these students. They're gonna talk to them weekly at minimum, especially at the beginning, so they become familiar just navigating everything. It will have to be in their native language because these are novice, high to intermediate, low students that the max of their capability is just form fragments or a sentence or two maximum in English. And so with these students, we hope to provide the support to them. When it comes to technical issues and things like that, we might have to work with PSS, BYU-Idaho Support Center, depending on the situations, but we're just that safety net. We're hoping we can be that means of communication that they can go to for someone they just need a support. So kind of think of it where they're missionary, their advisor, all wrapped into one. Obviously, we're not missionaries, but we hope to, through the Spirit, provide the support they need. So great question, thank you. Is there any other final questions as we wrap up and bring it to a close?
If we make a referral, what information do we need to send you? Then we just email it to you, but what information, like the name and
the more information, the better, just so we can get the, the overall situation of what's happening with students. So name, I number, the reason, what they need help with or what your concern is, so we can then get it to the right advisor. Would you add anything to that, Kendra? No.
Is there any confidentiality issues that apply?
With that?
With making a referral, like, do we get the student's permission? Do you know what I mean? It's like if you can't reach someone, then you can't say, can I send your name to advisors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know we all are perpetrating, so that helps, but at the same time, I would leave it at your discretion. If they have something personal that you feel would be important for us to know to advise them, then it's at your discretion to share. At the same time, we don't want to be talking about their whole personal life and what's going on, things that aren't really important to us to provide that support. So I would just say whatever you feel is
like basic information.
Yeah, whatever we need to know to help the students, I would say would be the best.
And generally, when we talk to the students, they share it again. Yeah. So usually we end up finding out more about the student as we reach out to them. Okay. Well, great. Thank you. As you're on your way out, please come up and grab one, and I'll have some. But thank you for coming today.